Some good news for the wizard, it's actually getting some meaningful buffs this time around. In general, its damage output is intended to be increased by a further 15%. And when I say further 15%, that is on top of any changes they've done on their previous pass. And mainly what they did in that previous pass was increase the damage of Thaumaturge and maybe a bit of Arcanist bug fixing and AoE capabilities. However, that really didn't affect anybody who was maining an Arcanist, who just used most of the base class powers plus Disintegrate, all of which were not touched to the infuriation of the community. They were making changes to Arcane Empowerment, which is kind of the keystone daily power that Arcanists were using in order to have that burst window of maximum amount of damage. And they've changed it now so that essentially encounters will only go off cooldown every 5 seconds thereabouts instead of your 3 seconds as it was before. However, with the next change again to Arcane Empowerment, it should increase the effectiveness of those encounters which have low cooldowns, making you be able to spam those a good bit more. Basically just reducing your cooldowns by 2 seconds every second on top of the normal 1 second every 1 second. So effectively you'll reduce your cooldowns by 3 seconds every second, meaning you can cast Disintegrate nearly every 2 seconds during Arcane Empowerment. However, Repel will go to like just over 3 seconds to go off cooldown, and then Entangling Force and Ray of Enfeeblement will be up there at about 5 seconds to off cooldown. Now just keep in mind, I'm no wizard main and I'm still learning this entire thing, so don't quote me on anything I say on what you should or shouldn't use. But from what I can see, they've definitely made the Arcanist a bit better with that meta of Arcane Empowerment. Will it be just as competitive with, let's say, using IceKnife instead? I think there's a skill thing here. If you can play with Arcane Empowerment and get the timing right, you will be really good as a wizard. If not, then just having a backup daily of IceKnife with a ton of magnitude will be the way to go. And yes, with IceKnife's magnitude going to 2300, that is more magnitude than the Rogue has on their shocking execution. A little shocking, especially since IceKnife has already gone from 1800 with a buff to 2000 and now going to 2300. So let's jump to the overall buffs and what exactly has changed. So initially we have the buffs to the base class, the powers which are shared between Thaum and Arcanist. And very nicely, we're getting our Magic Missile to go up to 60 magnitude instead of just 50. Ray of Frost going to 65 instead of just 55. Not exactly sure how that's going to impact things, as they're also increasing the base at wills, with Arcane Bolt going up to 120. So let's proceed onwards with the base buffs. Very nicely, Entangling Force is going to 600 magnitude instead of 500. That's actually a 20% increase on the magnitude. Repel is going from 500/200 on tab to 580/300 on tab. A neat AoE buff there, but it is a bit of an increase to single target. Ray of Enfeeblement going from 450 to 520. This one people generally will use on their tab for the spell mastery effect. And for you Arcanists, Disintegrate will indeed be getting a buff up to 750 maximum magnitude with 500 base. That is a significant bump up, especially with an encounter power on such a low cooldown. However, moving back to the base class, Icy Terrain is being buffed a little bit as well, up to 440 magnitude max, and your shield spell, it's going up to 400 magnitude max. Then your daily powers, Arcane Singularity, very nicely, is going up to 1200. IceKnife is going up to 2300. It's going in the top there of nearly the highest magnitude daily powers in the entire game, going higher than a Rogue now. And additionally, Oppressive Force has also been increased to a maximum of 420 magnitude. Now, specifically for the Arcanist, there is additionally a whole bunch of buffs. Storm Pillar, maximum damage is going up to 100 on a full charge. Arcane Bolt, as we've said, goes up to 120 per hit. Very nice. That's already a 20% increase there. And a double increase considering it was originally just 60. Then Counter Power, Lightning Bolt, which still feels pretty useless. It's going up to 350 magnitude with, again, Disintegrate, as we said, going up to a maximum hit of 750 with 500 base magnitude. Arcane Tempest going up to 400 magnitude, and Arcane Conduit going up to 300. As for the daily powers, Maelstrom of Chaos, getting a further buff up to 1400. Then your class features Storm Spell going up to 120 instead. Neat passive buff with Storm Fury also going up to 200 instead of 150. Don't see this one as too useful. And then Arcane Power Field also getting a buff up to 60 magnitude instead of just 50. Then your feats, you have your Snap Freeze with its power going up to 70 instead of just 60, and Striking Advantage going up to 120 instead of just 100. So a lot of just base magnitudes getting increased by like 10 to 20%. On average, I assume the dev, again, like you said, is trying to get that 15% overall increase sweet spot, which should help if Arcane Bolt is also going to be used. And looking at what Arcane Bolt was before to what it will be now, that's a pretty big passive increase to downtime damage on the wizard. Just keep in mind, artifact cost is really where the damage is at, and you have to balance around that. And lastly, then for the Thaumaturge, again, just a few small buffs here as well. Your At-Will Scorching Burst going up to a maximum of 110 magnitude, with the second At-Will Chilling Cloud going up to 90 magnitude. Fanning the Flame will have its magnitude increase to 500 on the initial hit. Icy Rays going up to 850 max, that will be 600 to 850. Chill Strike going up to 660 max with, when on tap, 300. Conduit going up to 350 with Fireball going to 700 max on tab. And in AoE that would be 350. Now your dailies, you have Furious Immolation, that's going up to 900 magnitude, with Ice Storm going up to 1200 magnitude. And otherwise, Shatter Strike, this one feat, is going up to 300 magnitude max with 200 on the secondary effect. And that is pretty much it. From what I can tell, just from my perspective with these overall buffs, I don't think Thaum is going to be that great of a single target damage dealer. I have done some tests myself. It'll still be good, right? Still pretty competitive nowadays with all those sheer increase in magnitudes, but I don't think it's going to get the edge that an Arcanist is going to get with Arcane Empowerment to be able to spam those encounters during Artifact Call. Is it going to be worth it compared to using IceKnife? We shall see, and it might just depend on the content. So what they've done with Arcane Empowerment is changed it so that you will reduce your cooldowns by 1 second every half second. So 2 seconds every second. Now that means that Disintegrate will end up cooling down 3 seconds every second, so you'll be nearly able to cast Disintegrate every 2 seconds during Arcane Empowerment. So moving forward, the wizard is definitely going to see an improvement, but I don't think it's going to be as competitive as like a warlock or maybe even a rogue at this point still. Just through the utilities those classes have, the versatility. Just for some context here, we're running like the new dungeon, and after about an hour we finally managed to beat it. That was spending most of the attempts on the last boss, which is largely single target burst damage. And you can say beating it, we pause it, you can see the wizard Vormus, no offense or anything, he plays his wizard pretty well, is already nearly 30% damage below me. Not to mention the damage that the warlock did at just over 1 billion within that 55-minute time frame, who is already nearly 20% above my damage. So you can see he's like 50% higher than the wizard. So just giving the wizard a 15% overall buff is not really going to give that much of an improvement. However, that's just one wizard, and he's relatively new in the dungeon. Me and Psy have run it a little bit more than he has, so we have that edge on knowing the mechanics and the timing. However, I'm melee in the Warlock's range, so you'll probably see the gap there, because I gotta move out a lot of the mechanics and then not being able to do damage, whereas the Warlock can move away and still use abilities from afar. And Wizard has that benefit as well, so this buff might at least close that gap between the Rogue and the Wizard. So again, at least some decent, meaningful buffs moving forward here. So again, a special thank you to all of these channel members for the continued support. If I presented this well, consider leaving the video a like, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.